To fly like a bird, soaring and dancing with the clouds, using only the wind.
Oh, wow.
Man against nature.
One of the hardest skills to master is understanding the weather. For us, the more we know about the weather, the better pilots we become.
A grueling test of endurance, requiring skill, science, and luck.
Every day is different. The wind strengths are going to be different. The clouds are going to be at different altitudes. All these things change every single day.
Can this extreme athlete pilot a hang glider farther than anyone ever has before?
Make it lit! Down. Down. Make it lit! Down. Make it lit! Down. All right, here we go, everyone. There are basically two kinds of people out there who fly hang gliders. There's the professionals, you know, the folks who know what they're doing, and there's people like me.
I'm Dave Malkoff, and I'm not quite sure about this, but here goes! Whoa! We just jumped off a 2,000-foot cliff. It is scary and amazing to me, but for folks like Rob and other experienced professionals, this is a bunny hop.
The craziest hang gliding anywhere on the planet happens here. Zapata, Texas, right on the Mexican border. As far as weather goes, there are few places like it. This dusty town is a hang glider's dream. Heat, wind, it's magic alchemy. The desert air preserves old homes, but it also fuels long-distance flights for pilots with no engine. Just a wing, a water bottle, and a dream of world record flight. So quick quiz, what do you think is the maximum distance anyone can go in a hang glider like that? Can he go 5 miles? What about 25 miles? Can he go 50 miles? 100 miles? Think about it for a second.
The answer is actually much higher than any of those. Wait for it. 475 miles in a hang glider, but you need a little push to get there. We are in a tiny aircraft called a Dragonfly, using a little engine back there, the kind that you would put in a snowmobile. We are getting our friend behind us up to the breakneck speed of 35 miles an hour. Hold on a second, I'll contact him.
All right, Johnny, you're good to go. Okay, this is Johnny releasing.
Oh, that reminds me, I should introduce you. This is Jonny Durand.
So I'm Jonny Durand, I'm from Queensland, Australia. We are in Zapata, Texas. I'm here to attempt to break the world distance record in hang gliding.
I grew up in a small country town on the top of a mountain, and it happened to be next to one of the best hang gliding sites in the world. My father, he started hang gliding when I was about 9 years of age.
And it just so happened that the takeoff spot was right next to my school. I could look out the classroom window, see him flying up and circling with the bird. He took me on my first tandem flight when I was probably 10 years of age. Something about going back to school the next day and showing pictures from my little camera to my classmates of the school from the air, and things that I got to see was just, it just got me hooked.
Jonny was 14 the first time he flew solo.
Just something about hang gliding was jumping off a mountain and you were free. It's like probably one of the most free sports I've ever done in my life. There was nothing to stop you. It was just you and the elements.
By age 21, Jonny was Australia's #1 ranked hang glider pilot. And by 25, he was rated the best in the world.
Compete in hang gliding around the world. It's pretty much my full-time job.
A job that's allowed him to explore that world from a remarkable vantage point.
A lot of people can say they've traveled around the whole world, but not many people say they've traveled the world and seen it from a hang glider.
There are few places on the globe, though, where hot air rises thousands of feet per minute, where the winds have the strength and consistency to redefine what's possible in a hang glider, which brings us back to South Texas. It was here in 2001 that an Austrian named Manfred Römer became the first person ever to crack 400 miles in a glider, 430 to be exact. Over the next decade, the world's best pilots made the trek to Zapata in hopes of catching Römer. But it was American Dustin Martin who came the closest, logging 410 miles in 2008. In 2012, Martin decided to pass on a chance to return to Zapata to go for the record. Then, his phone rang.
Jonny called me because he was already there, and he just said, the weather looks good, you should come here. Why isn't your sponsor paying for you to come out here?
You know, we're great friends, but once we get in the skies, we like to battle it out, you know, and I tried to talk him into coming, and he kind of laughed at me.
So I told him initially I wasn't going, but then I looked at the weather and it looked classic for what we want to do.
Here we are, day 1, record attempt, Zapata.
Day two.
Day 2, first real attempt. What's Dustin doing over here?
On a day bursting with potential, Jonny and Dustin knew they could bring out the best in one another.
If you've got two pilots and you spread out, you can actually fly together and you can get a better judge of the air and you can generally fly a lot faster.
Goes Dustin, first to launch.
The low-key American was first in the air just before 10 a.m.
I'm going to be in this position for the next 11 hours, hopefully.
And 12 minutes later, after a quick reset by the launch team, the supremely confident Australian took off right after him.
Alrighty, just released from tow, here we go.
That head start meant it was going to take just about an hour for Jonny to catch up.
And I think once we joined up after the first hour, I don't think we got more than half a mile apart.
We just keep leapfrogging each other all day long, so I might get a little bit ahead and then he sees me and watches me do one bad decision and then catches up to me and passes me.
There was a moment about maybe 350 miles in the middle of nowhere. We were right next to each other, but we both aimed for a slightly different spot under the cloud, and we both hit the climb where we thought it would be, but I hit it slightly better. So that separation that we had allowed me to take advantage of that line of clouds, and I just pulled way ahead.
I thought he was long gone. About 40 minutes before sunset, I was on a glide and all of a sudden he appeared just above the horizon.
He pulled right up and there we were, face to face again for the very last climb of the day. The day is dying, there's no energy in the air, but there was enough tiny bit of lift where we could circle and sort of maintain altitude. So we did that for a while and we kept shifting and joining again and, just kind of like jousting, and I just was kind of hunting a little more carefully than he was, and I picked this one little piece up that he didn't feel.
After nearly 11 grueling hours in the air, Jonny finally landed east of Lubbock, Texas, 473 miles from where he started. But Dustin touched down just 1 minute later. And a bit further, it was official. Dustin had beaten Jonny by just 2 miles. He'd come to Texas practically on a dare and ended up flying an astonishing 475 miles. That is like going from New York to Detroit in a hang glider.
Dustin's only probably beat me on 3 occasions and that was one of them, so he wanted to make sure that he got the one that hurt the most, which is the world record.
Do you think he regrets making that phone call?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how exactly do pilots like Jonny Durand travel such incredible distances with no engine? We'll explain how the unique weather in South Texas makes it all possible. Stay with us. Whoa! Welcome back. I just jumped off a 2,000-foot cliff here. Technically, I'm falling off of a mountain, but falling very slowly. That's where physics comes in. Typically, flying in a hang glider means you are constantly falling, roughly 200 feet per minute. That's why my friend Rob and I were in the air for just about 20 minutes. To defy gravity, pilots have to find what are known as thermals.
A thermal basically is hot air rising from the ground. With that, we get into these thermals and we'll circle inside them and we'll climb.
But to stay up for hours on end and go 400 plus miles? Well, that means finding what amounts to the holy grail of atmospheric conditions. Gary Osaba set out to find that holy grail. The hang gliding pioneer and aviation expert studied 2 decades worth of climate data, which led him to the border town of Zapata, Texas.
What makes Zapata unique is it has all the right things in the right proportions and in a consistent way.
Gary began organizing what he calls world record encampments here in Zapata back in 2000. Up until that point, only one pilot had ever broken the 300-mile mark in a hang glider. Zapata has since produced 10 flights of more than 400 miles. So what is so special about this place? Well, Zapata sits right at the collision point of 2 very different air masses. One is made up of dry desert air from the west. The other surges north, bringing a heavy dose of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. Where those 2 collide is called a dry line. That's the thing that often causes severe weather, like thunderstorms and tornadoes further up north in the Great Plains. But here in Texas, it creates what are called thermals, invisible columns of hot air that rise from the dry landscape, stretching out for hundreds of miles.
I think the best way to explain it to people is if you put a pan of water on the stove and you go to boil it, you'll see the bubbles start at the bottom of the pan. Once it gets hot enough at the bottom, they release and rise to the top. And this happens outside every day.
The thermal production that is necessary for successful flight in gliding aircraft is really fantastic down there. There's so much energy in the atmosphere that at times the air is moving up thousands of feet per minute. And so harnessing that energy is what it's all about. It takes efficient aircraft, it takes very skilled pilots, and it takes the weather.
Let's get deep into the science of this. Meteorologist Stephanie Abrams met up with Jonny for this really cool demo.
So to illustrate the supercharged science behind thermals, we created Jonny's Airspace right here in our studio, trying to set a world record. And you are doing that in Texas. How many miles are you trying to go?
475 miles.
Yeah. All right, so you're going to start off in Zapata, Texas, and then you're going to make your way north towards the Lubbock area. How long will this take, and how fast will you be flying?
It's going to take me about 11 hours. I'm going to average hopefully a little over 40 miles per hour throughout the day.
Let's talk about the weather that will help and also hinder your flight here. Dry line in Texas, it can fire up, and this can make conditions worse or better for you. How's that?
Well, basically, the instability with the dry line creates good thermals for us throughout the day, but unfortunately, sometimes later in the day, it can blow up too much and create a storm cell, and the sun gets behind the clouds and shades the ground for us, and that's never good at the end of the flight.
Okay, so in Texas we have this warm, moist air coming off the Gulf, and then we have this, dry, hot air, West Texas into New Mexico. That's what pops off the dry line, and also thunderstorms as well. Heats up the ground, and then that warm air rises up, and this is actually what you're riding, these thermals. Correct.
So we got to find thermals all day long. This is an example of one of them. We'll hit the hot air, we'll climb up, get our altitude, and we'll glide off. And I'm going to have to find about 70 of these thermals to complete the mission.
What are you looking for when you're looking for these 70 thermals?
Clouds are a great indication. There's dust devils on the ground, there's birds flying in the sky, and yeah, we try to find the strongest air that's rising to go the fastest we can.
Okay, Google, navigate to Zapata, Texas.
Okay, Zapata, here we go.
Okay, so let me just put this in perspective for you. He says he has to go to 70 of those thermals, right? Well, if you're on a road trip, what you have to do is you have to just put your destination in the GPS and go there. You have an address, right? Well, he has 70 addresses to go to, 70 of them. And he doesn't even know exactly where those addresses are. They're not fixed locations. Not only that, he can't even really see where those 70 spots are, but he has to get to each and every one of them or he fails.
It's kind of like going out surfing blindfolded. It's hard to catch those waves when you can't see them, but a good surfer can still probably make that happen.
Now, timing is critical on this. You can't take off too early because the ground needs time to heat up and produce those all-important thermals. But you can't take off too late either. Remember, every second of daylight counts. It's why most record attempts happen on or around the summer solstice, the longest day of the year.
It's a race against time because we can only stay in the air with heat. So once the sun goes down, we go down.
And going down in a glider in the middle of the Texas desert can get, well, a little thorny. We'll look at the hazards that Jonny faces as he prepares for his first world record attempt when Wind Rider returns. We are back in the Lone Star State, and we're also back from the break trying to track down the longest hang gliding adventure ever on this planet. Why in this southern part of the state? Well, you've got the really hot ground in the summer, and you've also got those beautiful fluffy clouds up there. So what's the sky look like to you?
This is like a classic soaring day for us. We've got these beautiful cumulus clouds which indicate great thermals here in Texas.
Those are those hidden escalators that you can climb up to the top of the cloud.
Exactly, yeah.
Jonny Durand is rated as the best hang glider pilot worldwide. The one thing he does not have, the one thing he is trying to get here in Zapata, Texas, is the world distance record. He is trying to fly from the Mexican border all the way to the Panhandle, 475 miles. Remember, he's entirely dependent on the weather up there, so picking the right takeoff time is a gamble. He could be up there for 11 hours, and there's no telling when the weather is going to change on him.
We get very good at what they call micrometeorology, which is understanding the next hour or two of what the weather's going to do. That helps us predict storms, whether the wind's picking up, potential dangers up in the sky.
Even in ideal conditions, it can still be a rocky ride. Those thermals that keep Jonny in the air, some of them are capable of lifting him thousands of feet in mere minutes.
It's quite dangerous to be flying in such strong winds, and the conditions we're looking for we would not normally be competing in because it's too dangerous for all the competitors.
Of course, there's that small matter of coming down. You're not just in danger up in the air, but when you come down, you got to watch out where you land.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things on the ground. There's these things to start with. I mean, the spikes on them are, 2 inches long, and I mean, they draw blood. That stuff will just cut me to shreds if I land in the wrong spot.
And even if the landing part goes okay, the chase now becomes a recovery operation, which could be a big challenge in this remote stretch of Texas.
A lot of these places are oil wells owned by big companies, and they have locked gates to all of them. So I might land 10 miles off the road and there's no way in to get with me except from walking. So, it's 100 degrees out. You land after flying for 5 or 6 hours, and then you might have to walk for 5 or 6 hours with your equipment just to get to a car.
Gary Osaba has been organizing record attempts in Zapata since 2000. Remembers one especially dangerous incident.
We had a pilot one year land out in the desert. She didn't follow through with the protocol, and she lost consciousness because of the heat.
All these things are running through your mind all day long that, you want to fly as far as you can. You want to break a world record, and the things that you need to do to make that happen is not easy.
It all begins before sunup. Under a full Texas moon, weather reports start coming in. Jonny's first attempt is a go. Jonny and his weather expert Gary spend a lot of time trying to figure out when is the exact right time to launch, and they know, down to a T, what pace they need to be on.
Timing is a critical factor. We can be too early, we can be too late.
You think you got plenty of time, and the next thing you know, the clouds are popping and you're still here. And we launched probably too late on the last world record, so.
If these guys are going to do this, they have to do this now.
Back in the saddle, ladies and gentlemen. It's showtime.
Picture perfect takeoff, but Jonny has no idea what he is flying into. Things are about to take a nasty turn.
Yeah, I had almost 5 of the scariest moments of my life up there. Oh, man.
If you're just joining us, we're in a chase car chasing a guy who wants to break the world record for distance hang gliding.
Hey Johnny, what's your altitude right now?
3,600.
It's world record attempt number 1. Australian pilot Jonny Durand is up there at 3,600 feet hunting for clues like dust devils, birds circling, but most important of all, he's looking for clouds. That's the only way to find invisible columns of air known as thermals that keep him in the sky. Hit a thermal, circle up, glide till you find the next. He's got to do that, well, only about 70 times to break the world record.
He's probably following that street right there.
And when you say street, you mean these clouds that are lined up. It's like a street in the air.
Yes.
Like Marty McFly has, that kind of street.
Yes.
He doesn't need roads, but of course we do. Jonny's longtime driver, Timothy Ettridge, is kicking up dust trying to keep up with a guy who has no stop signs, no rest stops. Quite literally, he is flying as the crow flies above us. This is a perfect example of how you can't go any faster than him. There's literally a house on the street in front of you. He's got no engine, you've got an engine, but you've got a house in front of you.
It's exciting, but then I know I've got a long day of sitting in the car just trying to keep up with him. I have an iPad showing me the satellite track of where Jonny is. I have a GPS showing me where I think I should go in relation to where I think Jonny is going to go. I have to deal with the limitations of the earth, and he's dealing with the freedom of the sky.
The freedom of the sky. That's a great way of putting it. Oh, on just a 20-minute tandem ride, that's exactly what I experienced. A freedom that's hard to describe. Look on the left. Wow. Oh, there he goes. The pilot who just passed us is the same guy who passed Jonny back in 2012, Dustin Martin. Dustin is a hang gliding instructor, Jonny's friend and rival, who has the world distance record right now, 475 miles. Do you think that you might show up there on the 20th?
Absolutely not, no.
Why not?
I'm just a little over Zapata for now. But if he breaks it, that's the kick that I would need to go back.
So with Dustin conveniently tucked away in California, we are back in the chase car in Texas. Hold on a second, let me pull over and show you something. Every few miles in Texas, there are these historical markers. I don't actually know what they say. I haven't read any of them. A bunch of Old West cowboy lore, perhaps. Jonny has that frontier spirit. It's why he has come here multiple times in search of a world record. It's why he owns the second longest flight ever. It's why he is here once again.
100 degrees, 24.123. I'm looking it up now.
The one thing he can't control is the weather. He needs the sun, the clouds, the heat, and the wind all to line up together so he can post one of his historical markers on the side of the road as well. Now, every one of these world record attempts, every one, means the possibility of an 11-hour journey For Jonny's driver, that means the possibility of being on the road for 11 hours straight, with no satellite radio, no podcast, just one thing on the entire time. Up there for all those hours floating in the sky, the only thing Jonny has to listen to is this. It's called a variometer.
And that sound is telling me whether I'm rising or sinking and how fast I'm doing that. It sounds like a bit of a computer game, but it's extremely important, and that's basically what we listen to all day long.
How does the mind focus on that for 11 hours?
It doesn't seem like it, but I'm making a decision every second while I'm flying. To be up there making so many decisions, you get very little time for your mind to wander and think about different things. The mental side is probably the most tiring part of the journey, because I guess it's kind of like driving a car. Most people can drive, but they don't get tired. Their arms don't get tired of driving, but mentally they get worn out from focusing on what they're doing the whole time.
All that time zipped up in a cocoon. Now, if you were on a road trip for 475 miles, you know what you'd have to do. Well, nature would call. You have to pull over, find a gas station somewhere. I already know what you're thinking. I gotcha. And I asked him.
I try to only drink enough that I don't have to go to the bathroom. We can do it up there if we need to. We just unzip, and every now and again you'll see a sun shower. It starts raining and you look up and you go, it's blue skies. Where's that coming from,
He's kidding. Well, sort of. I hope he's kidding. But actually, blue skies are not what Jonny wants to see. He needs to see clouds out ahead of him. That is exactly how this first record attempt began.
The conditions we're seeing are the conditions we want to see, nice big puffy cumulus clouds, and those represent lift.
Unfortunately, things start to go south, literally, about 50 miles into the flight. All right, copy. Well, you heard it. Jonny's been up for just about 2 hours and 15 minutes now. It just wasn't the day. So he's coming down. We may be able to actually get to him, so we're gonna try to do that now. He's actually behind this lock gate here. We're in a place called Callahan, Texas, that's north of Laredo.
No, but there was one.
Oh, we did get through.
Yeah, there was one that was unlocked.
So you can actually get through this gate?
Well, it turns out one of the padlocks on it was unlocked, so we got the gate open. Oh. I'll be back. I'll be there in just a few minutes, okay? Eventually he's going to come down, one way or the other. So the question is whether he comes down where he wants to or comes down where he doesn't want to.
So nobody's really going to get mad at you for going into that area because it is a rescue mission for this guy.
True. Legally, it's an emergency landing.
There he is, right there. Let's just go. Whoops. Watch out for rattlesnakes in this little thing. What happened?
I'm pretty happy that I managed to get this far in this crappy conditions.
How far is that?
Just under 100 kilometers.
Oh, really?
55 miles or so. I kept looking at my schedule and I was just getting more and more behind. And the conditions weren't really getting any better, so I sort of stayed in the air, did an extra hour hoping that things might change and magic might happen, one might say. But that didn't happen, so decided to land and save myself for another day.
So we're gonna try it again tomorrow. We'll give you a chance to reset. We'll be back right after this break. Well, the sun is just rising over the Rio Grande. That's actually Mexico right back there. The ants have been up for hours, so have the spiders and that jackrabbit. Guess who else is jumping out of bed?
I haven't come across the ants yet, but yeah, I got out of the shower the other morning and there was a scorpion about an inch away from my foot, so.
Jonny Durand is one of the best hang gliding pilots on the planet, but even he would have been a little bit surprised had he nailed the world record flight, 475 miles, on the first try. He's gearing up for day 2.
This is like one of my very first instruments I owned. As you can see, it's all taped together and it's about 20 years old. I've got 5,000 hours of flying time with it. I just know it inside out. I love it.
He's got the passion, he's got the experience, but the one thing that can stop him from breaking the world record is the weather.
Pushing my limits is what I like to do. I like to set world records, I like to do things that nobody's done before in a hang glider, but at the end of the day, I can't control the weather.
We're just arriving at the airport in Zapata, and as we get out of the vehicle, look at this. Whoa! Look at those clouds out there. Those weren't here yesterday. And underneath each one of those clouds is an escalator up into the sky. It's try number 2. Just a quick reminder of how all this works. Jonny is actually pulled up into the sky by that small dragonfly plane I was riding in earlier.
Once everything's set to go, tell Bobby to start towing me, and I'm on about a 200-foot rope, and he tows me up to just over 3,000 feet, release from the plane, and start my journey.
Johnny, Timothy, you copy? It wasn't that long ago that we had a visual contact on me. It was just off my window.
It's rare, but every once in a while you can actually make visual contact. Wait, hold on. We just got to this rest area. What a shot! What a shot! Kudos to our photographer, Brad Reynolds. Man, you can see him go right past that flagpole and into the clouds.
You passed that same point 3 minutes earlier the last time out, so you're pretty much on the old schedule.
Okay, but I'm behind Dustin's schedule by 20 kilometers.
That would be Dustin Martin, the guy who beat Jonny to set the record back in 2012. Jonny knows the exact pace that he and Dustin were on back then. He has it written down. Highway east of Laredo, 1126. Check. It's military time. So Carrizo Springs at 102. Crystal City at 133, and so on. But something went wrong between Uvalde and Camp Wood today. Something that nearly put him on the other side of the border and the law.
I left a climb or a thermal that was not so strong, going for a couple of clouds that looked to be really good, and then when I got to them, they'd kind of dissipated. When I get low, I don't really have a lot of choices, so I landed in what was an oil field out there in the middle of nowhere, and I turned around and a vehicle pulled up, and this oil worker came up to Miguel, and he literally said, "What is this thing?" And I told him it was a hang glider. He said, I've been following you from about 2 miles back. I thought you were a hawk and you'd caught a rabbit, and I was tracking you for like the last 2 miles. I've been following you in the truck, and I saw you come down between the trees, and I thought, that's the biggest hawk I've ever seen. I'm gonna go check that guy out. And the security came and stopped us and told us to turn the vehicle off and asked for my ID, and they informed us that the Border Patrol had to come because I was literally about 15 miles as a crow flies from Mexico. They come up with their hands on their guns, and they don't know who we are, so I quickly handed them my ID and told them I was from Australia and I was here trying to set a world record, and luckily I actually had a picture on my phone from the Zapata newspaper this morning with me on the front page explaining what I was doing, so they all wanted pictures at the end of the day, and I made it back safely.
Well, world records are just that. They're not easy to break. That's why they call them world records. We landed here 110 miles from our starting point in Asherton, Texas. So it's back to Zapata as Jonny waits for the skies to line up just right.
I know it's not the pilot skill that's holding me back right now, it's just the weather that I've been given, and I'm literally at the mercy of the weather gods.
We're speeding along the ground as our guy up in the air, Jonny Durand, is speeding along in a hang glider. Welcome back. We are in the chase car trying to beat a world record in hang glider distance. He is 1 mile above us and 1 mile that away.
He's doing good. He's on the right route, but you can see he's past the point where he landed the last time we were this far out.
Of course, this time he's trying to go much further, nearly 500 miles over the course of 11 hours. You think he's going to do it today?
You know, at the pace we're going and where he actually is in relation to where the world record pace was, he's just even with it. So at this point, I would say it's 50-50. All the conditions are in place, but it's still 50-50.
A 50-50 shot of going further than anyone in the sport has ever gone before. That's better than most people could ever dream of. Jonny already owns 3 other world records, but this one, the distance record, is the one he wants more than anything. You see, he's dedicated his life to this sport. Even as a kid, he knew this would be his existence. Living as a nomad, wherever the challenge takes him.
I'm probably one of very few that actually get to call it a job. Most pilots compete on their vacation time. Most of them have families. You probably are giving things up, but if it's something that you love and it's your passion, then you know I don't feel like I'm giving anything up. If you love traveling and you love flying, then you know for me this is the best job in the world.
Back to the chase. Remember, Jonny is looking for clouds. It's how he finds those so-called thermals, those columns of rising air that he needs to circle up. And right here, the thermals Jonny seems to be finding are pretty good, strong enough to lift him to his highest altitude yet, nearly 9,000 feet. At this point, he's 250 miles in, halfway to his goal. But with just a few hours of daylight left, he's running out of time. We are at a place called Tom Green County, Texas. That's an actual place. And he's how far out? See?
He's about 10 miles behind us now.
About 10 miles behind us. He was up in the clouds, but now he's flying kind of low. Just past that Tom Green County line, the flight took a frightening turn.
Thought I'd done the hard part. I encountered some wicked turbulence, and then I was doing involuntary 360s, and I was doing everything I could just to keep my glider right side up today under some of those clouds. So it kind of scared me a little bit.
It was turbulence, violent shaking that caused some of the most terrifying moments of Jonny's career. Just 3 days earlier, a man had been killed hang gliding at the very park in California where I tried it out at the beginning of this journey. Jonny knew about the accident. That very recent death was somewhere in his mind while the winds were tossing him about thousands of feet above Texas. It was that turbulence that kept Jonny from getting to the next thermal. After 9+ hours in the sky and 302 miles, he was coming down 174 miles short.
It was probably, I had almost 5 of the scariest moments of my life up there today under those clouds flying. So I'm literally at the mercy of the weather gods. If I don't get the right weather, there's really not much I can do about that. You know, obviously setting goals and having dreams that, you know, are so far away and hard to reach, you have to expect disappointment at times.
So for now, the world distance record stays with Jonny's friend, Dustin Martin, in California. Remember, he and Jonny flew together on that last record flight, helping each other read the skies, pushing each other's limits. And maybe it was that teamwork that made such an epic flight even possible.
You know, a lot of people to this day still say that that world record wouldn't have been set without the two of us working together and flying the whole day together.
And if you ask Dustin, he'll tell you that at the end of the day, it all comes down to having that perfect weather.
The thing about the record is it's 100% dependent on the day. If you've got a 30-mile-an-hour wind and the sky will allow you to stay up all day, you'll beat it. But that's the thing, though, that day is super rare.
Who knows how long his record might stand for, you know? If it might hold on for a long time yet.
Well, that dream of 500 miles in a hang glider like that, it is still out there, but you gotta keep it in perspective. The number of people around the world who even do this is less than 20,000. The number of people who have gone 300 miles in a hang glider like Jonny did today, you can count those on your fingers. Jonny's done that 8 times. So there's always next year. As long as the ground is hot and the wind is blowing, Jonny's gonna make a go for it. In the middle of nowhere, Texas, I'm Dave Malkoff. Thanks for watching.
We going on.